British Empire, a colossus that once spanned a quarter of the globe, stands as one of humanity's most extraordinary achievements. From the wind-swept shores of Albion to the sun-scorched plains of India, the empire's reach was unparalleled, its influence enduring. It was a crucible of innovation, culture, and ambition, driven by the indomitable spirit of the British people. This is the story of its meteoric rise, its zenith of power, and its eventual decline, a tale woven with the threads of 5 towering figures. Through their vision and resolve, the British Empire reshaped the world, leaving a legacy that echoes in law, language, and liberty. In the late 16th century, England was a small, fractious island on Europe's fringes, overshadowed by the might of Spain and France. Yet, it was here, under the reign of Elizabeth I, that the seeds of empire were sown. Elizabeth, the Virgin Queen, was a master of statecraft, her keen intellect and fierce resolve transforming England into a burgeoning maritime power. Her reign was a golden age, not merely of poetry and drama, think Shakespeare, but of audacious exploration and defiance. Elizabeth's defining moment came in 1588 with the defeat of the Spanish Armada. Spain's invincible fleet, sent to crush Protestant England, was scattered by English naval ingenuity and stormy seas. This victory was more than military. It was a clarion call to the world that England was a force to be reckoned with. Elizabeth's support for privateers like Sir Francis Drake, who plundered Spanish galleons and charted new routes, laid the groundwork for England's global ambitions. Her patronage of the East India Company in 1600 was a masterstroke, granting a monopoly to trade with the East, planting the first roots of empire in Asia. The Elizabethan era was a crucible of British identity, resilient, inventive, and fiercely independent. The English language began its global ascent, carried by explorers and merchants. Elizabeth's reign ignited a spark, the belief that this small island could project its will across oceans. Her legacy was not just a nation, but a vision of global influence. By the 17th century, England's ambitions grew bolder. The establishment of colonies in North America, Jamestown in 1607, and trading posts in India set the stage for expansion. Enter Robert Clive, the swashbuckling architect of British dominance in India. Known as Clive of India, he was a complex figure, brilliant, ruthless, and emblematic of the empire's early vigor. Clive's rise began in the 1740s as a clerk for the East India Company, but his destiny lay in conquest. In 1757, at the Battle of Plassey, Clive's small force of 3,000 defeated a Bengali army 10 times its size, securing Bengal for the company. This victory was less about numbers and more about cunning. Clive's alliances with local rulers and his strategic audacity turned the tide. Bengal's wealth, its textiles, and its trade became the economic engine of the empire, funneling riches to London. Clive's triumph was a turning point. The East India Company, once a trading outfit, became a territorial power, governing vast swathes of India. His methods, bribery, coercion, and military force, were controversial, but they reflected the era's cutthroat geopolitics. Clive's legacy was immense. He transformed India into the jewel in the crown, setting the stage for Britain's global supremacy. The British people's ingenuity in trade and warfare, exemplified by Clive, made the empire a commercial and military juggernaut. As the 18th century unfolded, Britain's empire expanded across North America, the Caribbean, and Asia. The 7 Years' War from 1756 to 1763 was a pivotal moment, and at its helm was William Pitt the Younger. Though his role as a statesman came later, his father, William Pitt the Elder, orchestrated Britain's victories in the war. But the younger Pitt's leadership as Prime Minister from 1783 cemented the empire's dominance. Pitt the Younger, barely 24 when he assumed office, was a prodigy of governance. His tenure saw Britain recover from the loss of the American colonies in 1783, a setback that might have crippled a lesser nation. Instead, Pitt redirected Britain's energies eastward and southward. He bolstered the East India Company's control in India and supported exploration in Australia, where Captain James Cook's voyages laid claim to new territories. Pitt's economic reforms, streamlining taxes and reducing debt, fueled Britain's industrial revolution, turning the nation into the world's workshop. Under Pitt, Britain's navy became unrivaled, its merchant fleets the arteries of global trade. The empire's influence was not just territorial but cultural and legal. The English language, common law, and parliamentary traditions began to take root in colonies worldwide. Pitt's vision of a commercially vibrant, militarily supreme Britain ensured that the empire was not merely a collection of territories, but a global system. The British people's resilience and innovation, evident in the steam engine, the spinning jenny, and naval prowess, made this era a high-water mark of imperial glory. The 19th century was the empire's golden age, personified by Queen Victoria, whose reign from 1837 to 1901 saw Britain at its zenith. Known as the grandmother of Europe, Victoria was more than a monarch. She was the embodiment of an empire on which the sun never set. Under her rule, Britain governed over 400 million people across continents. From Canada to Australia, Africa to Asia, Victoria's era was defined by the Industrial Revolution's full flowering. Britain's factories churned out goods that flooded global markets. From Manchester textiles to Birmingham steel, the empire's infrastructure, railways, telegraph lines, and steamships knitted its far-flung territories together. The Great Exhibition of 1851, held in the Crystal Palace, showcased Britain's industrial might and imperial pride, drawing millions to marvel at the fruits of British ingenuity. Yet Victoria's reign was not without challenges. The Indian Rebellion of 1857 exposed the tensions of imperial rule, prompting the British Crown to take direct control of India from the East India Company. Victoria, proclaimed Empress of India in 1876, became a unifying symbol for diverse subjects. Her reign also saw the scramble for Africa, with Britain claiming vast territories like Nigeria and Kenya, spreading British law, education, and Christianity. The British people's contributions during this period were monumental. They gave the world the English language as a global lingua franca, parliamentary democracy as a model of governance, and technological marvels that transformed daily life. Victoria's empire was a beacon of progress, its influence radiating through literature, science, and exploration. The 20th century brought the empire's slow unraveling, yet it was also a time of defiant resilience, epitomized by Winston Churchill. Churchill, the bulldog of Britain, was a fervent imperialist whose leadership during World War II cemented his place in history. Born in the Victorian era, he embodied the empire's pride and its burdens. Churchill's finest hour came in 1940, when Britain stood alone against Nazi Germany. His stirring speeches, "We shall fight on the beaches," rallied the British people and their empire to defy tyranny. The contributions of colonial troops from India, Australia, and Africa were vital to victory, showcasing the empire's global reach. Yet the war exhausted Britain's resources and exposed its vulnerabilities. The rise of nationalist movements in India, Africa, and elsewhere challenged imperial rule. Post-war, the empire unraveled swiftly. India gained independence in 1947, a moment Churchill bitterly opposed but could not prevent. Decolonization accelerated, with African and Caribbean colonies following suit. By the 1960s, the empire had transformed into the Commonwealth, a voluntary association of nations. Churchill, who died in 1965, lived to see the empire's twilight but never its end as a cultural and political force. The British people's legacy endured. The Commonwealth preserved ties of language, law, and culture. English became the world's dominant language, spoken by billions. British institutions, parliamentary democracy, common law, shaped nations from Canada to India. The empire's infrastructure, from railways to universities, laid foundations for modern states. Even in decline, Britain's influence remained profound. The British Empire's rise and fall is a saga of ambition, ingenuity, and resilience. From Elizabeth's defiant vision to Clive's conquests, Pitt's reforms, Victoria's grandeur, and Churchill's resolve, the empire was a testament to the British people's extraordinary spirit. It was not without flaws. Exploitation, cultural imposition, and inequality marred its record, but its achievements were colossal. The empire spread the English language, now a global bridge connecting cultures. It introduced legal and political systems that underpin modern democracies. Its technological and scientific advances, steam power, railways, medicine, transformed the world. British literature, from Shakespeare to Orwell, enriched human thought. The empire's explorers, from Drake to Scott, mapped the unknown, while its merchants and missionaries carried British values to every corner. Today, the Commonwealth stands as a living legacy, uniting 56 nations in shared history and values. The British people's influence is woven into the fabric of globalization, from London's financial hub to the cultural exports of the Beatles and BBC. The empire's story is not just Britain's, it is the world's, a testament to a small island's outsized impact.